We all have difficult choices to make. I recognize that. My primary message to you today is we want the university's future to be in the center of your deliberations. I am deeply concerned from time to time that higher education is not on the priority list, and I think it needs to be. We need you to pay attention to these issues not only in terms of cuts to balance the state's budget in the short term, but also in regards to Minnesota's long-term economic vitality. As the Minnesota's only comprehensive research and land-grant university, we have an essential role to play in developing educated citizens or human capital, creating innovation, and sharing knowledge in support of our businesses and industries, our families, and our communities. For more than 160 years, we've delivered on our mission of education, research, and outreach, and I believe never more effectively than we do today. We are active in every corner of Minnesota, on 5 campuses, each with its own distinctive strengths and specialties, at 16 regional extension offices, 5 area health education centers, and more than 20 research and outreach centers, labs, and other locations statewide. This strong public focus has led to a strong sense of ownership, not only among our students, faculty, and staff, but also among the 400,000 plus living alumni and citizens of this great state. The people of Minnesota, your constituents, have great expectations for their university. And in the last several years, I believe we have outperformed our past, our peers, and nearly all of those expectations. For example, each year we welcome nearly 68,000 students, one of the largest, incidentally, your Twin Cities campus is about the 3rd largest campus in the United States today, including 2,000 transfer students from sister institutions from our state and region. Today, 91% of Twin Cities students continue after their first year, and four-year graduation rates have roughly doubled in the past decade and continue to increase each and every year. Last year, the university graduated more than 14,000 degrees, including nearly half of the STEM, what we call science, technology, engineering, and mathematics degrees in the state of Minnesota, and substantially higher percentage of those degrees at the graduate and professional level. Many of these students, regardless of where they come from, choose to stay and live in Minnesota, work in Minnesota, and raise their families in Minnesota. The university educates a full 70% of Minnesota's advanced healthcare professionals, without whom communities and citizens throughout the state would be seriously underserved. Our deep commitment to financial aid means that students who may not have thought of themselves able to afford a university education are enrolling, persisting, and graduating on time. I want you to remember this next statement if you don't remember anything else this afternoon. The University of Minnesota Promise Scholarship Program, something that Vice President Fitzenreiter mentioned, provides substantial need-based scholarship support to Minnesota students on all 5 campuses of the University of Minnesota, approximately 13,000 students from families earning up to $100,000 in adjusted family income per year. As a result of this innovative program, other scholarships and grants, including private support, and state and federal aid programs, the average net price of Minnesota undergraduates actually pay to attend Twin Cities campus, the Twin Cities campus, and many of our other campuses, has increased just 3.4% per year over the past 10 years, and in 3 of those years, the cost of education for our most needy students declined. In addition, from its earliest days, the university has played a vital role in Minnesota's economy, and today it's one of our state's best investments to spark economic growth and job creation. Already ranked among the top 10 research universities, in 2010, the university garnered a record $823 million in outside research funding, creating tens of thousands of jobs statewide on and off our campuses. And most of these jobs were in the private sector. University-based technologies have figured prominently in the launch of 11 new companies in the past 18 months alone. Since 2004, the university's research portfolio has grown by 41%, significantly outperforming peer institutions. And those numbers do not take into account roughly 10,000 known businesses founded by university alumni right here in Minnesota, in which hundreds of thousands of citizens work each and every day. What I'm really trying to say is the state is the university's infrastructure. The state support is essential to generating the new ideas and the external resources that fuel thousands of private sector jobs in Minnesota each year. These improvements in academic performance, affordability, and economic impact are the results of specific decisions and strategic reinvestments we've made throughout the University of Minnesota system, and Vice President Fitzenreiter talked about some of those. Today we are enrolling more students on our 5 campuses, more than 12,400 more FYE or full-time equivalent students than we did in 2000, and producing more than 1,200 additional degrees per year than just 5 years ago, and those are at least baccalaureate, if not higher degrees. We have achieved these historic gains even as our level of state support has been rolled back to 2001 levels and now comprises less than 20% of the university's budget. Thanks to careful planning, we have reduced our workforce largely through voluntary retirement incentive programs and normal attrition. But we have reduced it by hundreds of people, and in some cases replaced them with new outside funding. We have reduced energy use despite growth in facilities, and we have cut more than $6 million per year this past year in purchasing and procurement. We have also decreased levels of maintenance and custodial support for our facilities, eliminated highly successful but non-core programs, cut course offerings, put caps on course, raised caps on courses while reducing sections in many areas of high demand. We are doing more with less, and we have been doing so for years. I'm reminded of what one of my friends says, we're doing more with less. That's the good news. The bad news is we're out of less. Although our budget is substantial, we manage it less like the state or federal government and much more like a typical Minnesota family or a typical Minnesota business. For example, unlike government agencies or the state as a whole, we generate most of our own funding through the work that we do, and we balance our budget, as you heard just a few moments ago, each and every year. Like so many others in Minnesota, we are cutting spending to the bone, reducing or postponing important investments, and once again, facing a wage freeze and benefit reductions. Why? Because like your constituents, we can't simply afford to do otherwise. We have to make these cuts today. For several years now, we have warned of a future tipping point in which we would no longer be able to sustain deep cuts and remain the university our state expects and our state deserves. I think that tipping point has arrived, or it's very close. With a 15 or 20% cut in state support, we are no longer talking about reducing or eliminating offices, centers, courses, and sections, cutting operational costs and degree programs, or consolidating colleges, and we've done a lot of that. Instead, we would be forced to re-examine the impact and the financial viability of entire operations in the University of Minnesota system. Statewide services, entire schools, colleges, and campuses, the level of enrollment in critical programs, you name it. When we add a student, we often have to cross-subsidize the education of that student. Just take medical education, for example. That's not a threat. I wouldn't come to make an idle threat here today. It's simply a matter of scale. A cut in state support of 15% is nearly $100 million. A deeper cut of 20% is nearly $130 million a year. We could eliminate the medical schools on both the Twin Cities and Duluth campuses, which receives $87.2 million in state support, or nearly 25 cents of every dollar you send to us, and still not fill this projected hole in our budget. Alternatively, we could eliminate all 4 coordinate campuses across the state of Minnesota. That's $76 million in state support, and not balance even the lower number of this projected cut. We could eliminate the College of Science and Engineering, which produces the largest number of the state's STEM degrees, and close the schools of pharmacy and dentistry. That would produce $83.5 million eventually in in state cost savings, and still we would be in the red. We could eliminate the veterinary diagnostic lab, which protects the health of our population and our animal agriculture industries from animal-borne diseases such as avian flu and influenza. Currently, this laboratory is subsidized by the university's other operations because sending biological samples to Wisconsin or Iowa for testing is simply not viable. We could then close all of our remaining regional extension offices, saving a combined total of $30.2 million in state support and losing at least that much in federal support, and we still would not have solved even a third of this proposed cut. Just as a state cannot simply raise taxes to cover its shortfall, we cannot address a state cut of this magnitude by growing revenues. Research funding and private support are designated for specific purposes and can't be used for day-to-day operations or the core infrastructure, if you will, of the University of Minnesota. As a result, a state cut of 15 to 20%, if you used one solution, would require a tuition increase of 13 to 17%, jeopardizing the future of countless university students. We don't plan to do that, but that's one bookend. A second bookend, if we reduce staff in order to meet this cut, we could add as many as 1,700 workers to Minnesota's unemployed, 1,700 in one fell swoop, and that would still require us to eliminate entire operations in order to continue others. Or we could slash our enrollment and send our best and brightest out of state and try to woo them back once they've earned their degrees and made professional connections elsewhere. University of Minnesota graduates are the #1 contribution we make to Minnesota businesses and communities. Never mind the countless other public institutions and private entities that leverage our knowledge, our resources, our equipment, and our facilities to advance their own work each and every day. Time and again, I hear from Minnesota's business leaders, we would not be, they tell me, we would not be in Minnesota without the University of Minnesota. As you can see, from my point of view, the trade-offs are not insignificant. Obviously, the university must significantly reduce spending and increase revenues in this environment. We have done so, and we will continue to do so. But reductions of the magnitude proposed will change the very nature of the University of Minnesota. Changing the nature of the university is not a trivial matter. It could export thousands of good jobs and talented students to other states. It could diminish our ability to create new ideas and solutions that are vital to competitiveness, that is Minnesota's competitiveness in the global economy. What happens at the university fuels Minnesota's economic engine. In closing, I want to share the perspective of the former Columbia Provost, Jonathan Cole, who visited our campus this fall. Cole has written a definitive book on the strengths and international stature of American higher education. He entitles his book, The Great American University. He regards the University of Minnesota as among the nation's greatest. And he noted that it takes time to build an institution of this caliber, capable of attracting talent, significant outside funding, and new companies to Minnesota. Your investment in the University of Minnesota is essential. It creates new ideas, new products, new industries, and new jobs. Cole also offered a warning during his visit. Once greatness is lost and such extraordinary productivity is compromised, it is nearly impossible to rebuild. For 160 years now, Minnesotans have invested in the University of Minnesota. For 6 generations, the university has delivered on its public mission, generating new ideas, new knowledge, new solutions, new jobs, and new talent for Minnesota. 6 generations of greatness, and we could lose it in a few bad years. At the University of Minnesota, we have set high expectations and found creative ways to achieve them. If we fail to deliver on our mission and forfeit the public trust, then shame on us. But we have yet to fail or even stumble. If we fall because the rug is jerked out from under us, because a choice is made to solve a decade's worth of financial problems in one fell swoop by disinvesting in education and innovation. The impact will be statewide, and the damage will be permanent.